Hey guys, I'm Uriza. This story is all about what if Naruto got a part-time job at a flower shop. Naruto gets a part-time job at the Yamanaka flower shop, much to Ino's annoyance. However, will working with her fellow blonde open up new paths in life? Naruto, fluffy, awkward, crushes, and all the fun stuff of working in a flower shop. Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 10, Yellow Roses. Yellow roses were the most disgusting and loathsome flower they kept in stock. They meant jealousy, infidelity, a broken heart, extreme betrayal. Sure, they also meant friendship, apology, and undying love. But those were minor things. Ino growled and ran a hand through her hair, or at least she tried to, as it was now barely long enough to make a ponytail. She just had to cut it to prove to Billboard Brow that she was a ninja too. She glared at the thorny flower as she slowly trimmed it from its bush. Just a few more and I get to go cheer Naruto on at the stadium. It had been over a month since she had seen the bonehead. He kept drifting in and out of her life at random. She missed seeing his dopey smile every day as they came in for work. If only she could go back in time and properly enjoy those days. And prevent herself from literally giving Naruto away on a silver platter, and to for it of all people. What on earth had she even been thinking? Probably something about Sasuke. Not that she wouldn't say no to a date with the boy, but if Naruto asked to hang out the same time that Sasuke asked her out, Naruto would win hands down. Just like today, Naruto was going to meet Sasuke in the finals. And she was going to cheer for Naruto as loud as she could. She should sit next to Sakura to rub it in her face and to make it apparent to Naruto that while Sakura wasn't willing to cheer him on against Sasuke, she would. The bell rang, and Ino spun on her heel. Welcome to Yamanaka Flower sh. She realized who it was Sakura with her hair cut short like it made her a better ninja or something. Oh, it's you. Ino turned back her work as she plucked another thorn off the rose. What do you want? Sakura had the audacity to take a step forward like they were old friends or something. Well, it's just that the Chunin exams are going to start soon, and I was hoping you'd like to sit next to me. Ino discovered that she could glare and smile at the same time. Now why would I do that? So we could cheer Sasuke and Naruto on. Sakura held her ground against Ino's glare. It sucked that the shy little bud she had found and nurtured all those years ago had turned into such a rotten thorny flower. Ino examined her flower for a moment before she placed it in a small vase. Give me a second. Moments later Ino emerged from the flower shop, and walked past Sakura, forcing the girl to play catch-up. So, Ino said without even looking towards Sakura. Just seeing her was enough to make her stomach turn and bile creep up into her throat. Have you heard from either of them? She spared a glance towards Sakura. It was almost enough to make her want to hug the girl. Sakura looked torn, with a single hand over her heart, her eyes watching the ground in front of her. I haven't. Sasuke went off to train with Kakashi-sensei and Naruto. Well, you know how he is, he gets so excited about training that he forgets to eat. Sounded like a halfway decent diet. So you haven't heard from either of them all month? That didn't sound like, well, it sounded like Sasuke but Naruto not so much. Sakura shrugged. I went out for ramen once with Naruto, said he was being trained out to summon frogs by a pervert. Yeah, but Naruto calls everybody a pervert even if he is a little perv himself. At least his sexual orientation wasn't in question. What about you? How's Shikamaru doing for the Chunin exams? And should we cheer for him too? Sakura asked once again, holding her head up high. The stadium was in view now and a crowd was filtering in. Ino snorted. If I cheered for Shikamaru he'd be laying on his back thinking, troublesome woman, or something like that while he slowly maneuvered the sand chick to where he wanted her. But what if he fights Sasuke or Naruto down the line? He'd give up. He'd give up. Yeah, he told Asuma he's only going to do the first fight and then after that, he was going to forfeit and go eat barbecue with Koji. Ino smiled at the memory. She felt like she should be on Asuma's side when it came to motivating Shikamaru, but on the other hand getting him to agree to do that was a feat in itself. Besides, Shikamaru is the kind of guy that it doesn't matter if you're cheering for him or not, he's going to do what he thinks he needs to, glory and stuff like that just isn't important to him. Wow, Sakura said with a soft smile, a pink brow raised suggestively into her massive forehead. It sounds like you know a lot about Shikamaru. She knew more about Naruto. Yeah, well, he's my teammate and I've been inside his head one too many times not to understand how he thinks. I even know a bit about what goes inside your fat head. Sakura huffed, turning her chin up slightly. It's not like I wanted you to be inside my head. Yeah, that was made clear. That really hurt, by the way. Do you have any idea what it feels like to have your mind get punched in the face? She turned to Sakura and gestured at her jawline. I felt phantom pains for days. My dad says I'm lucky that it's just pain. He's been knocked out of his body before. I'm sorry. You better be. They slipped inside the front gates and made their way up to viewing deck. The stadium was packed, filled to the brim with ninjas and civilians alike. She could see a few of the genin already standing in line. Shikamaru looked like he was dragged out of bed and was ready to fall back asleep at a moment's notice. Who do you think will win? Sakura asked as they took their seat next to the stairs. From here they could see nearly all of the arena. Naruto, Ino smiled as she sat down, folding her legs in victory like that statement that slipped from her lips was the end-all be-all of the discussion. He's going to be our Hokage one day. Do you actually believe in him? You mean you don't? Sakura gasped and looked down at her hands. It's not that I don't. It's just that I think it's a dream that should be protected. And well, I get it, Ino sighed, leaning back into her seat. Well, at least I kind of do. You're trying to say that you want him to be able to follow his dream, you just don't know if it's possible, right? Yeah. That's about right. Sakura looked so much like that shy little girl that was so unsure about everything. So does that mean if Sasuke and Naruto fought you'd cheer for Naruto? And you wouldn't? She could see Naruto running into the arena to line up next to Shikamaru, only Sasuke was missing now. Sakura trailed off. I don't know, they're both really important to me. Ino glared at Sakura. Naruto's your boyfriend. Those words felt like acid as they came out of her mouth, but the effect on Sakura was worth it. Sakura shrunk away and looked all the small before Ino. This was what she was mad at? This pathetic little girl that was so afraid of what people thought of her that she would lead on the only boy nice enough to call her petty. Yeah, Sakura trailed off, looking down at the field. I know that. It's just, I kind of wish that I saw what you see in Naruto. And I am trying. I don't want to lead him on. I don't want to. Were those tears? Sakura was crying about this. Great, now she felt bad for making her cry. The proctor announced that they would give Sasuke until his match before they disqualified him. That meant that Naruto would be fighting soon. It's not that hard, you just need to give him a bit of attention and watch what he'll bloom into. Ino smiled as Naruto took his spot on the field opposite of Hinata's stuck-up cousin or whatever he was. She couldn't hold back her excitement and stood up. Go Naruto. Show that moody prick what you can do. Sakura stood with her. Cha. Kick his ass Naruto. Ino stared at Sakura and felt a smiling coming onto her face. Sakura mirrored her and began to smile as well. They plopped back down into their seats, oblivious to the stares of the crowd that troublemaker Naruto brat had two of the loudest cheerleaders in the village. You know, I really do miss you. Sakura smiled, her body relaxed as though cheering for Naruto had restored her own confidence. I want to be friends again. Her blood boiled at the thought of it. Of being friends with the person that was dating Naruto. That'd be like giving up. Submitting defeat and saying that Sakura won. The fight started, and Naruto charged in, producing several of his shadow clones. From fighting with Shikamaru, Ino knew when an opponent was doing something on purpose, when they were leading or baiting somebody into a trap. Naruto was to do trying the same to Neji. It looked to be working as one of the clones didn't disappear. It was the real one. Naruto had snuck in with his clones to distract Neji and create an opening. Then things went sour just as Naruto was about to land a solid hit. Neji spun, deflecting Naruto and eliminating his clones. The force was enough that Naruto got sent to the ground. Come on Naruto. Get up. You can do it. Ino cheered, It was easier to ignore Sakura when she was cheering for Naruto. Naruto made a lot of things easier. Don't give up. Naruto. Sakura joined in just loudly. As though powered by their command, Naruto got up and charged at Neji, with more clones this time. Neji deflected them again and again, without so much as breaking a sweat. Then he attacked the real Naruto with a series of blows, knocking him down onto the ground. Naruto. Get up. You can beat him. I believe in you. Ino screamed at the top of her lungs. Her heart was pounding, her face felt flush and her fists were clenched. Go Naruto. Sakura joined in. Show him what you can do. Again Naruto stood up. But something was different this time. He charged at Neji with no clones, faster than before, and zoomed around him almost faster than Neji could react. The fight kept shifting from one side to the next. Naruto was always on the attack, but Neji didn't need to attack to win. With a final assault, Naruto charged in with several clones and Neji deflected them all, but not before Naruto managed to get a single power-packed punch that sent them both to the ground. When the dust settled, Neji stood. And Naruto lay on the ground unmoving. The crowd was silent as Neji's words echoed up from the arena floor as nothing more than inaudible whispers. No, Ino whispered, clutching her heart. What would Naruto do now? Would he be upset that he didn't make Chunin? Would he lose motivation? This was Naruto. He had to do something. She had to do something. Naruto. Get up. The ground from beneath Neji cracked, and the Naruto that laid in the crater vanished like a clone. And Naruto gave Neji one hell of an uppercut that laid the boy flat on his ass. The crowd went wild. And nobody cheered louder than Ino as she jumped, screamed and hugged Sakura. Wait. She was hugging Sakura. How could she let this happen? Hey Ino, you really like Naruto, huh? Sakura had a confident know-it-all smirk that she wanted to slap off her face. Ino pushed Sakura away and huffed. What do you think? Ino, please, I want to hear it from you. Fine, I like Naruto, I like him a lot, more than I like Sasuke. That felt really good to say. Even if it was to someone like Sakura. Sakura smiled brightly and took a step back. I can't say the same, she smiled down at Naruto, who was relishing the cheers of the crowd as he was ushered out of the arena. And why do you sound so happy about that? She should be happy that Naruto won the fight. Instead she was wanting to start round 2 with Sakura here and now. Because I've decided. She smiled, looking up at the sky like she was staring at some bright future. I'm going to break up with Naruto. Ino wasn't certain why she punched Sakura in the face, or why she felt guilty a moment later. But she understood why she felt so happy. Sorry. That was reflex, I swear. Liar, Sakura laughed, rubbing her jaw. But I think I deserved that just a bit. Chapter 11, Blue Violets. As good of friends as she was with Naruto, this was her first time seeing his home. It wasn't what she had thought it would be. She had expected a shack in disrepair, not a perfectly normal apartment. The only indication that it was Naruto's was the wooden plaque on the door that said Uzumaki in Naruto's sloppy scrawl. According to Sakura, he hadn't come out of his home in 3 days. The death of the third Hokage combined with Sakura's ill-timed breakup must have been hard on him. That damn forehead, even when she was trying to do the right thing, she messes it up in the most spectacular way. Ino tapped on Naruto's door. Naruto? You here? It's me, Ino. For a while there was nothing. She knocked again. And there were footfalls. The lock clicked open, and the door cracked open just enough for Naruto to stick his head out. He looked like shit. Like all of his energy and happiness had been sucked inside and locked away tight. Now it was her job to bring that spark of life that once defined Naruto back. Hi, Ino. Can. All of her magazines that went over how to help a friend that went through a breakup did not prepare her for this. Can I come in? He pulled away and looked back into his apartment. It's a mess. This surprises me. How? Naruto shrugged and backed away from the door, allowing it to swing open. Come on in. The inside of Naruto's apartment wasn't a trash dump like she had expected it to be. Sure, there was what looked like a single-player game of garbage Jenga in the kitchen, but most of the mess was limited to a layer of dust that coated just about everything, and a few abandoned articles of clothing. It smelled like mildew and ramen. But the thing that caught Ino's eye was Naruto's modest collection of flowers. Sitting in the window next to the sink was the dwarf sunflower her mother gave him, now fully grown. Next to it was a bed of blue violets said to represent trustworthiness, faith, affection, that was so teeming with life vigor that they were practically overflowing their small square pot. "Are those blue violets?" Ino asked, ignoring the filth in Naruto's apartment and making a beeline towards the flowers. They were vibrant and healthy, and their color was just the perfect shade of purple. "You did a great job raising them, Naruto, they're beautiful." "Thanks." He smiled for a second and shuffled over to her, nearly tripping on a long-forgotten shirt. The smile died as he reached out and plucked one of the flowers, twirling it in his fingers for a moment. He sighed and placed it behind her ear. Ino's brain stopped, so her heart took over and began to beat faster and faster. Was this Naruto rebounding? Why was he giving her another flower? Did he know what they meant? He read some books on that, didn't he? Oh God, what should she do? Quick, stand there and blush like an idiot. They kind of remind me of you. This jerk. He wasn't sad at all. He probably knew all along that this was going to happen and had just tricked her into liking him. That said, her favorite flower was now blue violets, for an entirely different reason than Naruto saying that it reminded him of her. She should cover his house in them. Oh. Ino tried to sound confident, but it just came out as a squeak. What makes you say that? Naruto just shrugged, his arms flopping to his sides like a bird failing to flap. His smile was gone now. They're purple, and it's your favorite color. That made a lot more sense. Still, new favorite flower, and it was the third flower that Naruto had given her. That had to mean something, right? Okay, calm down, Ino, you need to take this slow. If you rush into Naruto's rebound, it will only be a temporary thing. At least if the magazines are to be believed. So, why are you here anyway? Naruto asked her, scratching the back of his head. Not that I'm complaining, I just kind of want to be alone. That's exactly why I'm here. Ino snapped, poking her finger into Naruto's chest. Her embarrassment vanishing under the flames of rage fueled by concern. You haven't left your house in 3 days, Naruto. For a guy like you, that's not normal. Now get your clothes on, we're going out. But Clothes, now. Her scowl softened and she gave him her best pout. Please, Naruto. Fine, just don't pout. Naruto threw his arms up and half stomped to his room. Ino smiled. He really didn't put up much of a fight. He came back dressed in his standard shinobi attire, headband strapped proudly to his head. Well, what are we going to do? Ino pursed her lips and tapped on them. I don't know, walk, talk, and get ramen later. So you didn't have a plan? Well, it's not like you'd have one. Ino huffed. You'd probably show up in my window and be all like, Ino, a beautiful girl like you shouldn't be crying, here let me take you away and make you forget all your troubles. Naruto snorted. That doesn't sound anything like me. Whatever, now come on. She grabbed his hand. They were holding hands. This was amazing. This was a date, right? Sure, she'd be paying for it. But this totally counted as a date. Even if her date was depressed. Let's go for a walk and you can tell me what happened for the month I didn't see you. XXXX. So after the pervert hit me in my stomach, I was finally able to walk on the water. Naruto shouted. They were wandering through one of the many forested areas of Konoha. The path was rugged and littered with rocks and trees of various sizes. It ran parallel to a calm creek that was clear enough its rocky bed could be seen. Oh? Maybe he unlocked a chakra point or something. Ino smiled at him, her arms behind her back. She looked really cute like that, especially the way that she was smiling at him. It wasn't much, but it was enough to forget about the last few days. Are you sure it wasn't just gas and he shook you loose? What? Naruto gasped, taking a step back in disgust. No, how could you even say something like that? Don't girls think that stuff is gross? Ino shrugged, tilting her head to the side. You're a gross nasty boy, remember how you beat Kiba? Your gas is not to be underestimated. even if it is super gross. Naruto frowned. If he didn't know that's where the Cubia's seal was, he might have believed Ino. Please don't tell me that makes me the gassy ninja. At least you'd be silent but deadly. Naruto stopped dead in his tracks, his mouth hanging open as he looked at Ino. Did you really just say that? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. She hopped forward, pressing a finger to her lips. But even if you tell anybody, they will never believe you. Why would he tell anybody? You don't have to worry about that, Ino. She grabbed his hand again. Her hand was so soft, and warm, and delicate. He liked it when she grabbed his. He liked it when she paid attention to him. It made him feel wanted. With a pull, she dragged him off the path and towards the river. Hey, do you think you can show me how to walk on water too? Huh, you don't know how. Nah, now come on, it'll be fun. She pulled him again and walked onto the rocky shore of the creek. Her smile was infectious. With every laugh and giggle he was beginning to feel more like himself. But I don't know how to teach it. Naruto protested. He was actually getting kind of hungry. And didn't Ino say something about ramen? Oh please, I'm a fast learner. Ino laughed. With one hand she tossed off one shoe and then the other. If you want extra motivation, I can go get my bikini. What? No. I'm not like the pervy sage. Why did he say that? Wait, why was he thinking that? The memory of Ino showing him her itty-bitty yellow polka-dot bikini for the first time was something that was seared into his mind. Please Naruto, I already said I would give you ramen later. Ino was pouting again. That was just not fair. She could get away with anything with that pout. Pretty please. He sighed and took a step onto the water. Fine, the first thing you have to do it. XXXX. Hey, don't be so depressed just because I learned how to walk on water in a day. Ino smiled, rubbing a hand on Naruto's back as they walked towards what was becoming her favorite restaurant, mostly because whenever she went there it was with Naruto. Remember, girls have better chakra control than boys. I know, but still, you didn't even get wet. Naruto's pout was something that could melt her heart on a cold day. Like you made it look so easy. Because it was easy, almost as easy as being happy around her fellow blonde. All of this was to cheer him up, and yet she couldn't recall the last time she had been this happy, probably when they went shopping. Yeah, but you wanna know what you make look easy? What? Eating ramen. She laughed and grabbed his hand again, all but sprinting towards the stall. Screw diet. Any date with Naruto was worth a messing up any diet. Besides, he already thought she was pretty. Still, what if the shopkeeper said something? Didn't Naruto used to take Sakura here? What if they asked if she was his new girlfriend? What would Naruto say? Would he blush and bumble like an idiot? Or would he wave it off saying that she was just a friend? Should she say that it's a date? Would that make Naruto happy? How long was she supposed to wait before asking someone out that just got their heart torn out and thrown on the ground? Probably more than 3 days. She'll just handle it in stride and continue to support Naruto. Yeah, that sounded like the best idea. Hey old man! Naruto shouted the second they entered the small stall. He spun onto a seat next to her and waited for her to sit down. One miso ramen please. I'll have the shio ramen. Ino chirped. She had made the right choice having a light breakfast. Ino smiled as her stomach rumbled happily at the bowl of ramen that was placed in front of her. Moments later a bowl was placed in front of Naruto and he smiled at her. He looked just like his old self. Was this her doing? It felt great knowing that she could heal him like this. Let's dig in. Naruto shouted, breaking his chopsticks. Yeah. Ino laughed, joining him by slurping up the delicious noodles. Oh, what should they do after this? Go for another walk, maybe go to the movies? Is there a scary one on? There was that one chick flick playing, but that would just bore Naruto. A good scary movie would give her the opportunity to be ever so slightly clingy. So, Naruto. Oh ho ho, so this was where you were. A deep jolly voice said as a tall man with a mass of white hair entered the stall. I've been looking for you all day, Naruto. What do you want, pervy sage? The man scowled at Naruto, then looked at Ino and his face turned into a wide smile. Are you sure you want to let your little girlfriend know that you're being taught by a pervert? Ino sucked in a noodle and tried not to freak out. This was it. The moment of truth. What? That's Ino. Well, that told her nothing. Well, whatever, I need you to finish up here, brat. We have a mission, and I'm going to be teaching you a super awesome technique on the way. The pervy sage laughed and slapped Naruto on the back. Ino did not like this man. Really? That's great, Jiraiya. Naruto leaped from his chair, a giant smile on his face as he wiggled out of pure excitement. He then looked at her, and his excitement died, then it grew again. Hey, do you think Ino can come? She's a super good ninja too, she learned how to walk on water in just an hour. Wait, did Naruto just say Jiraiya? Jiraiya is in one of the 3 legendary ninja? Teammate of the legendary Tsunade? And here Naruto was calling him a pervert. Nope, Jiraiya said with a pop. This is just a mission for you and me. Ah, but why not? Forget it, if Ino can't go then I won't. Ino smiled and rolled her eyes. Getting out of Konoha was probably exactly what he needed. If her magazines were to be trusted. Naruto, it's fine, I have to help with the shop tomorrow anyway. Look, brat, my hands are tied, I only have permission to take you. Jiraiya sighed, now come on, we need to get going. Naruto looked at her and frowned. I'm sorry Ino, I really did want to hang out more. Don't worry Naruto. She had no idea how she ended up hugging him. We can do this again when you come back. She wanted to say date. She really wanted to say date. I'll be sure to hurry back then. Chapter 12, Forget-Me-Nots. The path to the hospital was one that Ino knew like the back of her hand. Deliveries to patients there were nearly a weekly occurrence. Most of the time the flowers were for good health, the bring a bit of life into a place where people waited to die. She ran down the hallway, her heart pumping faster and faster with each step, as she ignored the shouts of the nurses not to run. Her team went on a mission without her. They were a team. As strong as they were separately, they were stronger together. And they got hurt because she wasn't there. If she was there, she could have done something. And then there was Naruto. He was here too. She needed to see him too. After she made sure Shikamaru and Koji were okay. Then she'd see him. Then she'd stay with him. They all needed to be okay. If they weren't okay, then she'd. Ino, Shikamaru rasped from his sitting position on the bench. Calm down, you're getting worked up. I'm not getting worked up over nothing. Ino spat back, turning to see the Chunin on her team, a vest that was well earned. He had a few minor cuts and bruises, but his fingers were in a splint. I never said it was nothing, Shikamaru sighed, a deep frown set in. I'm just saying that getting worked up over this won't help anything. Somehow they're all alive, all we can do is learn from our mistakes. Like not taking me? Ino snapped, glaring at Shikamaru. Her teammate sighed and ran a hand through his hair. You weren't home, I didn't have a lot of time to look for you, and besides that, you're not the combat type, nor is your jutsu useful for a pursuit mission. If it was ambush, I would have loved to have you along. But in this mission, you would have been a liability? A burden. She wanted to punch him hard. Yes. Shikamaru's bluntness knew no bounds. Believe me, if it was any other kind of mission, I would have tried harder to find you. But your abilities are not well suited in a pursuit-type mission. Especially given the targets we were facing. Their curse marks would have made your jutsu useless. The truth stung like 1,000 wasps. Besides, I don't think Naruto would be able to concentrate if he knew you were in harm's way. His frown turned into that malicious half-smirk that he was too lazy to finish. But hey, I and Koji are fine, so your duty as our teammate is fulfilled. Go check on Naruto, he needs to be cheered up. Did he know? Of course, he knew he was Shikamaru. But why didn't say anything? He was supposed to be smart, not empathetic. Hell, he probably thought thinking about girls was troublesome or something. You knew. You're painfully obvious when you like someone, even Koji knew that you liked Naruto. She really wanted to punch that dim smile off of his face. Ino frowned, feeling a blush form on her face. Great, just great. Who else knows? Well. Kiba figured it out a while ago, overheard your talk with Sakura, she know too probably. Actually, I think most of the village knows. Oh. Great, her life was over now. And nobody told me? Do you tell the person you're gossiping about the gossip? When they're my friend, yes. Actually, she would tell everybody else first and mean to tell them later. Probably, she'd get around to it. Okay, fine, I wouldn't. Exactly, no, go bother Naruto. Shikamaru's eyes flickered down the hallway to where the blonde wind user from Suna stood glancing his way. I'll let Koji know you stopped by once he's out of there. So that's how it was. With a huff, Ino stomped off. Shikamaru didn't deserve to see her smile, troublesome idiot. Still, she wished him luck. Naruto's room was easy to find, all she had to do was follow the whines about being forced to stay in the hospital. The setting sun casts an orange light through his window, bathing the area in one final warm afterglow before the cold night set in. Why can't we stay in the village though? She heard Naruto whine. Was he talking to someone? Someone wanted to take Naruto away from the village, again? The last time that happened he came home with the Hokage. Damn it, brat, you know why. That was Jiraiya's voice. Another training trip combined with a mission? Yeah, I know. But how long are we going to be away for? Naruto sounded so defeated, even the eagerness. We still need to bring Sasuke back. 3 years, Jiraiya said softly. You have 3 years before Orochimaru can use his jutsu again to take over Sasuke's body, so we'll be training for those 3 years to get you as ready as possible. So we'll be gone from Konoha for 3 years. Naruto flopped back onto his bed and let out a groan. Aw man. How am I going to tell this to Ino? That brought a small smile to her face even as she felt a tear slide down her face. Was Naruto going to be gone for 3 whole years? She couldn't even imagine what that would be like. That was longer than they'd been friends. Would it still be okay to confess to him? Would she still like him in 3 years? She braced against the door and held her heart. She was going to tell him that she liked him as soon as things had settled down. They had been on so many dates filled with laughter and happiness. Or at least she considered them dates. She was so close to telling him. Well, you better figure it out, brat, 'cause she's standing in the door. Jiraiya sounded so smug. Ino took the hint and walked into the room. The first thing she saw was the bandages that covered Naruto from head to toe. It made her stomach twist, first Koji and Shikamaru, now Naruto. They were all hurt and there was nothing she could do about it. Ino? Naruto asked before he smiled. So what's up? So you're leaving? She squeaked out, trying her hardest not to cry. There was no way that she could tell him if he left. If he stayed, she'd tell him. Right, well, have fun with your girlfriend, brat. Jiraiya hopped down from the window. Ino glared at the spot where he once stood. Yeah. I think I'm going to go on a training trip with Jiraiya again. He scratched the back of his head, looking heartbreakingly adorable. Do you want me to water your plants? Why did she say that? Why couldn't she just be honest? He should know that she liked him. That might make him stay, right? Or maybe it would make him like her while he was out traveling the world and prevent him from bringing home some hussy as his girlfriend. Or it might make him come back sooner. Oh, that'd be great, Ino. I leave a spare house key in my porch light. He seemed so happy. When do you leave? With a groan, Naruto flopped onto the pillow. As soon as Granny lets me out of the hospital. That soon, huh? Ino forced a smile, trying to fight back the tears that were threatening to spill from her eyes. Today sucked. Well, I hope you get nice and strong on the trip. I will. He gave her a thumbs up, smiling brightly. Don't worry, Ino, I already told Sakura that I'd bring Sasuke back. So I'll promise you too. She couldn't care less. Just make sure you come back, okay, Naruto? He nodded. Ino felt her knees begin to shake, her body felt hot and cold all at once, and she wanted to puke. She forced herself to stand tall and nodded at Naruto. Well, I guess I'll see you later. Yeah, see ya. She walked out of the hospital room, trying not to cry. She didn't cry when she left the building. She didn't cry as she walked down the street. Only when she shoved her face into her pillow did she finally cry. XXXX. This was it. This was the last look at Konoha he was going to have for a long time. Well, I guess I'll be seeing you, Sakura. Naruto, Sakura said softly, a hand clutched to her heart. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry, Naruto smiled. He really couldn't be mad at Sakura, she was just being honest about everything. Part of him knew that they wouldn't be together forever, even when they first started dating. Sakura was and always will be in love with Sasuke. Just like Ino. He had hoped to see her here to see him off. Just one last goodbye. She was his best friend after all. At least he thought so. Well, see you later, Sakura. Sorry about leaving you here all alone. I'll make sure to come back a lot stronger. You better, Naruto. I'm going to be training too, and if you don't work your butt off I just might be stronger than you. I look forward to it. Naruto turned and began to walk away from Konoha. He was going to miss this place, the ramen, the people, the air, especially his friends, Shikamaru, Koji, Kiba, Shino, Sakura, Kakashi-sensei, and Iruka too. Granny also counted. But mostly he was going to miss the flower shop and Ino. It felt weird thinking about her. It felt like the way he used to think about Sakura. But different. And he wasn't going to make that mistake again. Maybe once he brought Sasuke back and involved with a girl, then Naruto would have a chance. Naruto. Ino's voice sounded from the Konoha gate. He stopped and turned to see her running towards him. A bustle of blue flowers in her hands while she waved the other one frantically. Naruto. Wait. Ino shouted again once she was past the gate. She came to a stop right in front of him. It looked like she had been crying, and she was out of breath. Ino? What's wrong, are you okay? She held up a finger and took a few deep breaths. She stood and looked at him, her face was serious and there was a spark of happiness in her eyes. She shoved the bustle of blue flowers into his chest. These are forget-me-nots. They mean not to forget the person that gave them to you. So you better not forget me or I'll be super mad at you when you come back. Okay. What was he going to do with flowers? Was he supposed to carry them around forever? Thanks, Ino, and don't worry, I won't forget you. She hugged him. It was tight and stopped him from hugging her back. You better not, idiot. He felt something press against his cheek and Ino backed away, her face red as a tomato. Come back safe, okay? Before he could respond, she spun around and ran back into Konoha. I told you she was your girlfriend, brat. The old pervert grumbled. Looks like there's a note in the flowers too. The note was a simple piece of paper with 3 words on it written in Ino's girly handwriting. I like you. Chapter 13, Gardenia. There were many things that Naruto would do without fear: charge into battle, sniff check underwear, drink spoiled milk, call the Hokage an old hag. But apparently facing Ino was something that made him shake in his boots. Or at the very least pace near her store for at least an hour. Shikamaru had told him that Ino was still very single and that even if she tried to flirt with a guy it would uselessly end with her brushing them off moments later. But that didn't mean that she was waiting for him, did it? It had been 3 years. He didn't even get to tell her that he liked her back before he left. And it was just a note. What if she didn't even remember him or even liked him anymore? What if she thought he was funny looking? Sure, Sakura had said otherwise in his looks department, but had said nothing on whether or not Ino liked him. He had no way of knowing if she even still remembered him. Damn it, you blonde idiot, I told you not to forget about me, so show up so I can stop missing you. That was Ino. Was she talking about him? It sounded like him. He was blonde, and he was an idiot. That's it, he's going in. Whatever courage he had mustered died when he walked into the shop and saw her sitting there. There was beautiful, and then there was Ino. Her platinum blonde hair was longer than it was before, and was tied in a long ponytail while her bangs were pushed to one side covering her right eye. She was without a doubt the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. There was no one else that could possibly compare to her. She said something, with a smile bright enough to rival the stars. When she opened her eyes to look at him, it took his breath away. Her blue eyes were something to behold. XXXX. Ino drummed her fingers on the countertop, eyes locked onto the entrance of the shop. She had heard from a very reliable source, or he was a very dead source, that Naruto was back. Running around doing missions to bring Sasuke back, but he was still very much back. And he should be coming to see her whenever he had a moment to spare. Or at least he better if he knew what was good for him. What if he was afraid to face her because she stupidly confessed to him by putting a note in a bunch of flowers 3 years ago? She was 13. She was stupid and all she thought about was love, cute boys, and shopping. Not all that different now actually, but her tastes had matured. Probably. Despite her best efforts, she had been unable to find a guy that was even remotely dateable in Konoha. It was like they were all like Shikamaru, on a good day. Or like Rock Lee on a bad day. Or like Neji with a stuck so far up their ass she could see it when they talked. Or in Kiba's case, who was admittedly kind of cute, had their heart set on another girl. Ino groaned, pushing her head against the countertop. Damn it, you blonde idiot, I told you not to forget about me, so show up so I can stop missing you. Knowing that he was gone for 3 years was annoying but livable. She could carry on her day-to-day life, vaguely missing him. But now that he was basically back and that she couldn't see him was 1,000 million times worse. It was so frustrating. She was just about to scream for what was so not the 14th time that day, when the bell above the door jingled and customer service mode activated. Hello, welcome to Yamanaka. BA thump. Her heart jumped out of her throat and slapped her in the face. It was Naruto. He was tall, bright, and adorable. Whatever doubt that she had about her feelings about were now invalidated. Blood rushed to her cheeks and a warm glow flew over her body that made it hard to sit still. He stood there in the middle of the store dressed in a plain orange t-shirt and black pants, his mouth slightly as though his brain stopped working at the sight of her. That was a very good sign. If only she wasn't suffering from the same condition. His face was red, and neither one of them had broken eye contact for what seemed like ages. Okay, Ino. Calm down, girl, handle this smooth and try not to completely freak out. She smiled, leaned on the counter and set the charms to 11. Well, if it isn't Naruto, I was wondering when you'd show up. That snapped him out of it. He swallowed and shook his head, those wonderful blonde locks of his swaying at the motion. Oh hey there Ino, I guess I'm a little late for my shift. It was so cute how he tried to act casual by scratching the back of his head like an idiot. Well, he was an idiot, but soon enough he was going to be her idiot. You know, I'm fairly certain we fire people that miss more than 3 days in a row without telling us. Oh. But, I think I can rehire you if you wanted. She folded her hands and rested her chin on it. You can even wear the same apron as before. Really? That's great. He almost shouted, taking a quick step forward. But that's not why I'm here exactly. Oh, and why are you here? She purred. Here was the part where he would say you and then he would woo her with being a sweetheart and taking her on a wonderful date that would probably just be Ichiraku ramen, a bit of walking, a lot of talking with a side of laughing. If he played his cards right she might even be willing to do some kissing. I'm a customer. Naruto blurted out, standing at full attention like a grunt in front of a drill sergeant. A customer? Are you here to buy some seeds or something? Or replant your garden? Her hand fell to the countertop and she drummed her finger along the countertop. No biggie, she'd just ask him to hang out later and ambush him with her overabundance of womanly charm that was bound to leave him so amazed he'd fall in with her. He swallowed and walked towards the flowers. No, I'm actually here for the flowers. Did someone die? What? No, they're for a girl. If it was Sakura she was going to kill her. Oh? Do I know her? Better than anybody. She'd be buying flowers for Sakura too. For her grave. She had made it perfectly clear that Naruto was going to be hers when he got back to Konoha. And Sakura could have Sasuke whenever he came back. Really now? And what kind of flowers are you going to get her? A bunch of gardenia. He sounded so freaking happy about that. He grabbed a handful of the flowers and quickly tied them with a yellow ribbon. I read that they represent a secret love, and then you should only give them to someone who you truly care about. I know what gardenia are, she huffed, as he walked up to the counter. There was a quick exchange of cash for the flowers, that brought a bit of bile to Ino's throat. I hope she likes your flowers. Hee, me too. He stood in front of her holding out the flowers so that they were practically rubbing in her face. Aren't you going to go give them to her? I am. Ino blinked. She looked at the flowers, then at Naruto, who was smiling so bright that it hurt to look at for extended periods of time. His face was red, and he was looking right at her. Oh. Oh. She was an idiot. The flowers are for me. He nodded as fast as he could. You're giving me, Ino, Yamanaka flowers? Specifically the Gardenia, a flower that represents a secret love and that you should only give to someone you truly care about. He nodded again. Are you going to take them or not? Her body felt like it was on fire as she reached out and took the flowers from Naruto. He had given her flowers again. Flowers that meant love and happiness, on purpose this time. Thank you, Naruto. Yeah, he scratched the back of his head nervously. The truth is I've had a crush on you since before I left, but I thought you just liked Sasuke. You did? Ino gasped, holding the flowers up to her face. She had smelled them a million times, but now, they smelled so different, they looked so different and felt so different. All because Naruto gave them to her. Yep, I was actually going to confess to you, but then I ended up leaving the village, and I thought you liked Sasuke at the time. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the note she had snuck into the forget-me-not. With this, there was no way I could forget about you, let alone get you out of my head. I was going to confess to you. Too. And I just felt like I had to tell you before you left. She buried her face into the flowers and smiled at the note. He had kept it. He had a crush on her too. This was perfect, like something from a romance story. She should do something. Something awesome. Something that he wouldn't see coming. Oh, a kiss. A kiss sounded like a wonderful idea. Would that be too forward? No, she wanted to do this right. He'd have to date her first, and then she'd kiss him. Unless he started kissing her now, she'd so be down for that. Okay, Ino smiled, pushing the hair out of her eyes. So we like each other, what are you going to do now? Are you two? He scratched the back of his head. Honestly, I'm surprised I got this far. But do you think we can go on a date later tonight? I'd love to. Ino looked at her flowers and huffed. But honestly, you buy me flowers from my own store. I hope you are not planning on making me cook you dinner. What? No. We're literally the only flower shop in Konoha. Where else was I supposed to buy them? Chapter 14, Gillyflower. There was something magical about her. The way she stood biting her lip in anticipation for him no less, that made Ino seem all the more beautiful. Her long platinum blonde hair contrasted the soft red of her sundress. She was by definition, every teenage boy's dream, tall, blonde, beautiful, funny, charming, smart. How on earth was he this lucky? He shouldn't be this lucky. This had to be some kind of a mistake, right? Why were his legs moving forward on his own? Not for the first time, Naruto found his body acting without any input from his mind as his legs began to move towards Ino. Her eyes lit up the moment she saw him and a smile appeared on her face, not just any smile, a real honest-to-God smile that made his heart want to leap out of his chest. It wasn't the kind of smile that shouted to the world that she was happy, rather it showed the world that she was happy by allowing the smallest glimpse into her soul. Hey, you, she laughed, running up to him, her hips swaying with each step, and continued to once she stopped. It was nice to know that she was as excited or nervous or both about this date as he was. What took you so long? I'm sorry, Naruto scratched the back of his head, feeling incredibly underdressed for this. He felt like he needed to be wearing something fancy just to be on Ino's level of everything. I lost track of time staring at you. Damn it. That was not the right thing to say. Now she was going to think he was some pervert. Well, she probably already thought that, but now she was going to. She grabbed his hand, entwining their fingers. You're so sweet, Naruto, I guess I can forgive you this one time. She pecked him on the cheek. It was like the first raindrop to fall from the sky. He felt it, he could still feel it there sitting on his cheek, but he had no proof that it happened, that it wasn't just his mind playing tricks on him. Should he ask her to do it again? Should he do it to her? Why was this so hard? Now come on, I know just the place. Ino backed up smiling and biting her lip for what had to be the ultimate combo of sexy and cute. She tugged on his arm just enough to get him moving. Wait. Isn't it my job to plan the date? And pay for it, but that wasn't the point. Ino snorted and fell alongside beside him. Please, I've been looking forward to this for like 3 years now. Besides, you were probably just going to take me to Ichiriku's, weren't you? I was going to ask if you wanted to see a movie afterward, Naruto mumbled. Ino's hand was so soft and warm, but not the kind of warm that made his palm sweat, it was the kind of warm that was just fun to touch. And she smelled good too, like vanilla? There was that smile of hers again. Oh, that's a good idea, dinner and a movie, classic first date stuff. So, where are we going anyways? It's a secret. She stuck her tongue out of him, highlighting the way her hair hid one of her blue eyes. Trust me, it's going to be sweet. You're taking me to a pastry shop, aren't you? Naruto laughed, pulling Ino's arm so that their shoulders were touching now. Being close to her was intoxicating. Her face turned a shade of red and she huffed. Maybe, but it's a new place that opened up a few months ago, and I wanted my first time to be with you. They froze. Both of them. The redness of Ino's face quickly spread around her entire body as the realization of what she said made itself known. Naruto himself was faring not much better. His time with Jiraiya had done a fantastic job of scrubbing away the innocence of his youth. There was no way that he wasn't going to pick up on what Ino had just said. Look. Ino yanked his arm downward. She looked like a blonde tomato with steam coming out of her ears. That's not what I meant. I don't want you to be my first time. She blushed again. Wait, no. I mean I do. But wait. No. Look. Just forget that I said anything. If you promise you won't bring this up again, I won't go into your mind and make you forget, okay? She was breathing heavily now, tears were welling in her eyes, and she looked ready to die of embarrassment at any moment. I'm just glad it wasn't me that said something stupid this time, he laughed, earning a well-deserved smack to the chest from Ino. You jerk. She puffed, her face scrunched up like she just ate a sour lemon, but she was smiling. You need to say something stupider to make up for it. What, why? Because if we're going to do the dumb blonde power couple, then I need to be the smart one. What? No fair, you get to be the smart one, the pretty one, the sexy one, and the funny one? What does that leave me with? The sweet lovable dumb one. Now please say something stupid. I think I'm going to literally die of embarrassment. Ino placed a hand to her head with a dramatic flair. It's not that easy. Naruto protested. I can't just think of something dumb to say, it just kind of pops out. Ino glared at him, lip trembling with a slight pout. Please, I don't want to have to go inside your head on the first date. I don't think there'd be room for you in my mind. I mean, you don't really cross my mind, you kind of already live there. Naruto bit his lip. That sounded stupid, so it had to work, right? Ino turned redder than any rose he had ever seen. Her mouth hung open and her eyes were wide. She hit him in the arm. Hard. You jerk. That wasn't stupid. That was beautiful. Like really, Naruto? That's the best stupid thing you can come up with? Honestly, if we weren't about to eat chocolate, I'd be seriously upset. So are you mad or happy? I don't know, both probably. Girls were amazing creatures, but really weird. XXXX. Naruto had the natural ability to charm her pants off. Not literally, of course. But he was just so smooth. If she didn't know any better, she could have sworn that somebody was feeding him lines. But honestly, she didn't know anybody that was suave enough to come up with Naruto's lines. Or anybody that could say them without bursting out in laughter and blowing their cover. Fortunately, she was currently stuffing her mouth with chocolate before she could say something else stupid. Also, why the hell did she have to kiss him on the cheek earlier? She should have just kissed him. Right? Was that too fast? Who the hell does cheek kisses anymore? Grandmas, that's who. She glanced towards her ever so charming date and locked eyes with him. This was the 5th time since they had sat down at the table. It was so heart-quickening, he didn't even have pretty eyes. They were just blue. Sure, that was rare and she supposed they were alright looking, but there was nothing special about them. Aside from the fact they had the special ability to make her face warm and her heart race. Why do you keep staring at me like that? Ino mumbled, taking another bite of her chocolate. Huh? Naruto asked in the confused he always did right before he said something that was literally going to make her heart split in two and get in a cage fight with itself so that it could beat faster. She didn't need to worry about a diet around Naruto, just being around him was cardio enough. Why wouldn't I stare at you? Don't you know how into you I am? R.I.P. Ino Yamanaka, death by flirting. You're sweeter than this chocolate, she huffed, taking one last final bite of her dessert. He stood, offering her his hand once more. She took it again. His hand was so warm and rough, big too, but somehow it felt like her hand was the perfect fit for it. He helped her stand, making her bounce to her feet. He was so tall now. But somehow he was still the same adorable Naruto he always was. There was just more of him. So where to now? Ino smiled, interlocking her arm with his. She was so tempted to rest her head on his shoulder. But would that be too far? She already kissed him on the cheek. Was this too fast? It didn't feel too fast. She was going to do it. His shoulder was firm, but so inviting. It felt like the easiest thing to fall asleep to. Well, we can walk around for a bit, or head to the movies. You lead, I'll follow. Actually, wait, Ino smiled. Walking like this would be awkward, but holding on to Naruto like this during a movie would be a wonderful idea. Let's hit the movie first, ramen afterward, okay? Yeah, sounds good. She really liked the way he smiled at her. With each passing moment, it felt like Naruto was growing more attractive, as he began to relax around her. It felt good seeing him so happy, all because of her. He was so tall now, a lot taller than she ever would have thought a shrimp like him would have become. Maybe he wasn't done growing either? What did he look like shirtless? So, did you think about me a lot while on your training trip? Ino pressed a hand to Naruto's chest, trying to feel it in a not so subtle yet probably still subtle way. Do you remember when you flashed me your bikini that time we went shopping? His face turned slightly red. How could she forget that day? It was both the happiest she had been in a while, followed immediately by her heart breaking for the first time. Yeah, that was a fun day. What about it? I think that image has been burned into my mind. Whenever I close my eyes I see it. Perv. She slapped him in the chest again lightly. Did that mean that he thought about her when he... Oh God, he didn't he totally thought about her when he was alone at night, in her yellow polka dot bikini that was... She was 13 then. A most devious idea crossed her mind. You know, I still own that bikini. Maybe it's time to update your memory. Naruto came to a sudden stop, causing her to jerk slightly. His face was red and he was looking at her with great big red eyes. He swallowed hard and looked at her with a fire in his eyes. She took it back. He had wonderful eyes. Are you trying to seduce me? Depends. She bit her lip and raised her eyebrows. Is it working? What do you think? XXXX. Ino stood in the doorway of her home. The sky was dark save for the lone moon shining above them, bathing the streets in its pale light. It was the cool mid-autumn air that was biting her heels, making her regret not taking a sweater on their date. Well, I had a lot of fun tonight, Naruto. Yeah, he said softly, flopping his arms slightly. Do you think we can do it again sometime? She laughed, pushing her bang out of her eye. We can do this whenever you want, Naruto. He grabbed her hand and stared at it for a moment, and looked her in the eyes, begging for permission. She nodded, and he leaned down and kissed her hand. It was so cheesy. If she had been lactose intolerant it might have killed her. Her hand burned where he had kissed it. Part of her never wanted to wash it ever again. Does that mean you'll be my girlfriend? Her heart leaped into her throat and nearly jumped out so that it could scream yes to the world and kiss Naruto. But her mind reeled her in. We've only gone on one date, Naruto. So, Ino fumbled, trying to find the words. I like you, okay, I like you a lot, but I don't want us to have a great couple of months and then break up. I want us to build something that will last. Something that won't ever end. I know it's silly but dash. It's not silly, Naruto almost shouted, taking a step between them, still holding onto her hand. Another step and the only thing that separated their bodies was the combined width of their hands. I want something that will last with you too, but it's just whenever I look at you it makes my heart beat faster. I'm not going to kiss you right now. Ino bit her lip and stared up at Naruto. He was so close, so tall, so handsome under the moonlight. If she didn't hold onto her restraint there would be nothing to stop her teenage hormones from making a series of wonderful mistakes. But I wouldn't mind if you just grabbed my face and kissed me. He did just that. His lips were chapped, and he sucked at kissing. They both did. But it was undeniably wonderful. It lingered as they separated, eyes fluttering, hearts beating. I planned on waiting until the second date before we kissed. Ino touched her lips as they formed into a smile. But something about you just makes me want to do stupid stuff all the time. So, sure. Ino smiled, kissing him again. It was so easy to just let go. I'll be your girlfriend. He reached out to one of the pots in front of the store. This is a gillyflower, right? She nodded. And he placed it behind her ear, keeping the hair out of her face. I know it's supposed to represent a long life and beauty. But let's hope it'll mean that I can have a long happy relationship with my beautiful girlfriend. Chapter 15, Mistletoe. You look like a dork. Ino's honey-sweet voice drifted in from behind him. She rounded the corner carrying a box of Christmas decorations. She was dressed in a pale white sweater dress that left a great deal of her neck and a bit of her generous cleavage exposed to the world. Fortunately, there was no body but them and Tsubaki. Hey. You're the one that put me in this. Naruto pulled at the collar of his ugly red Christmas sweater. It had been thrust upon him when Ino invited him over to help decorate the shop for Christmas. But he was a good boyfriend and would wear any manner of ugly clothing to make his smoking hot girlfriend happy. Am I even doing this right? The large pine tree was placed nearly in the center of the shop as Christmas was in full swing. Wreaths and Christmas flowers took the place of the standard wares the shop carried. But Naruto was currently wrapping a string of popcorn around the tree. The box jingled when Ino sat it down. She glided gracefully around the tree and guided the string of popcorn into its place. Relax, you're doing a great job for your first time decorating a tree. Hehe, thanks, Ino. With the popcorn finished it was time to put on the ornaments. They were all large highly decorated bulbs of every color in the rainbow. Tactful, but tasteful at the same time. Once the orbs were placed, it was time for the more unique decorations. Daddy got this for me when I was 12, Ino said softly, drawing his attention to the hand-sized glass snowflake Ino was dangling in the air. He got it on a mission up north when he couldn't bring me home any flower seeds. Naruto placed a hand around Ino's shoulder and hugged her. The death of Inoichi and Shikaka was one they all felt. But as Shikamaru was stepping up into his father's shoes, Ino was setting out on her own path. I promised him I would always take care of you. She laughed and gave him a tender kiss that left his lips buzzing and heart racing. She was in complete control of him, without mind control. As Kurama frequently put it, he was whipped. I'm going to hold you to that, Naruto. Ino smiled and placed the ornament on the tree where it fell into place with all the others. But if you're not careful I might be thinking that you're proposing to me. Crap. Did she know? Did Sakura blab? Wait, no, it had to be Shikamaru. Or was it Koji? No. It was just a joke. Haha, yeah, that's totally not what I meant. She looked at him, blue eyes sparkling with a single eyebrow arched hidden behind the fringe of her hair. Well, it's not like I don't want to marry you. The look persisted. I mean, not right now, totally not right this second, maybe soon. Naruto continued to stammer. He was blowing it. He was basically strapping everything to a rock and telling Sakura that the rock said she had a big forehead. I'm going to shut up now. She was smiling now, one hand on her cheek, eyelashes batting. Oh, but I was having so much fun watching you dig yourself into a hole. At least I'm not putting myself into the doghouse, right? Naruto pretended to shiver, rubbing his arms and chattering his teeth. The couch is so cold in the winter. Oh, please, like I've ever made you sleep on the couch, Ino purred, smacking him on the chest. Besides, who else is going to keep me warm at night? Good point. He smiled, stealing a kiss from her. Crisis averted. Ino had no idea what he was planning. Now, let's finish the tree before your mom gets home with the mistletoe. XXXX. Ino smiled as she put the finishing touches on the Christmas tree. After the war, it finally felt like her life was back on track. And Naruto had been there with her every step of the way. Just thinking about him brought a smile to her face. And even after nearly 2 years of dating, the magic hadn't faded. She was electricity, and Naruto was the path of least resistance. Her fellow blonde was currently going out of his way to make sure that no door frame was free of mistletoe. So are you putting all those up just so you can kiss me more? He smiled like a kid with their hand in the cookie jar. My Abe. You know, you don't need an excuse to kiss me. Once their relationship was defined, they agreed that kisses may be requested, stolen, taken, or given without penalty. Oh, I know, but more kisses never hurt anybody. He jumped down, and landed right in front of her where he gave her a fantastic kiss. She closed her eyes and leaned into him, placing her hand on his chest as the only thing that prevented her from taking more than he was willing to give her. Besides, isn't it fun when I have to kiss you as much as I need to? She looked up and saw him dangling a bit of mistletoe above their heads. You're such a dork, whatever am I going to do with you? You better find out, because at this point you're stuck with me forever. He leaned on her more and more as his arms were draped around her shoulders like an ugly throw. Forever, and ever, and ever. Okay, something fishy was going on. And she wanted to know exactly what. Alright Naruto, what gives? You're planning something, aren't you? His entire body froze. Yep, he was guilty. Very, very guilty. While Sakura had her way of scaring the answers out of Naruto, Ino had her own way, more subtle and far, far, far more underhanded. Oh, Naruto, she spun in his arms, draping her arms around his shoulders. She put on her best girlfriend face, and began to purr. Why won't you tell me what's going on? Aren't I your girlfriend? I bet I could make it better. Seduction plus guilt was her weapon, and it was super effective against Naruto. Well, I mean. That is a... He was stammering, almost like he was stalling for time. There was a knock on the door before the doors flew open and in strode a Sakura with pink cheeks. The girl marched up to them and grunted before she let out a sigh and steeled herself. She grabbed hold of Ino's arm and said, Ino, come quickly, we're running out of time. Wait for what? Ino tried to fight it, but Naruto was all but pushing her towards Sakura as her friend pulled her out of the room. Don't worry here Ino, go have fun with Sakura. Naruto waved her goodbye as she was pulled out of the storefront. He planned this. Traitor! Ino shouted as Sakura pulled her out into the crisp winter air. What do you want for it, girl? Wait. What on earth was going on? Where was that music coming from? It was kind of campy, like the kind that would be on a cheesy Christmas movie. What was in that eggnog? Did Naruto spike her drink? Did she spike her drink? Is it wrong for me to want to see a friend? It's a victimless crime. Sakura laughed, her arm still hooked around Ino's in a vice-like grip. There was no escape. Everything sounded so caned and forced, like Sakura knew that she was doing something stupid and was going to die of embarrassment. Dickless has a big surprise for you. So he asked us to sing this little chime. Sai appeared, holding a framed picture of her and Naruto. It was cute and well drawn, with them in a tender embrace. Even if you are far too beautiful for him. Sakura finally lets go of her arm. They had walked, more like ran, to the other end of the street. And the music was following them. What the hell was this? Sai, Sakura growled. That didn't rhyme. I thought you said to bring time. Sai held up a small pouch of herbs. It was enough for Ino to let out a small chuckle. Love is in the air for Konoha winter time. A white scarf began to slither its way around her neck, warming her against the chill air. She turned and saw their Hokage, Kakashi, standing ever so slightly too close to her while he spun the scarf. It looked like he was smiling under his mask. I better get overtime for this. What's going on? Ino stomped her foot and glared at Sakura. Sai was having too much fun with this. And Kakashi would just tell her exactly nothing, which left Sakura as her only source of information. She was blindsided by Kiba grabbing her arm and spinning her. Every day of every hour he thinks about you while inside the Hokage Tower. He was going full ham, clearly, he was having far too much fun with this. One could say you make his heart go 1,001 kilometers per hour, Hinata spoke softly, enjoying this just as much as Kiba if not more so. She placed a large white flower behind Ino's ear and gave a small bow. It was nice to watch your love flower. We'd be doing you a disfavor, if we tried to keep up this behavior. Shino appeared on Kiba's right, sounding twice as forced as Sakura had. How long had he been standing there? And how on earth did Naruto convince Shino to say that? What are we waiting for? It's happy hour. Kiba hooked his arm around Shino's shoulder and Hinata's waist. The music was still playing. This wasn't over and she still didn't have any answers. What the hell has gotten into you people? Shikamaru and Koji picked her up by the arms so that her feet were dangling helplessly in the air. He's going to ask for your hand, Shikamaru droned, sounding as bored and unenergetic as ever. Wait for what? Ino asked, kicking her legs. Put me down. Come on Shikamaru, can't you give a damn? Koji asked, looking over at their other teammate. They were ignoring her as they sped through the streets of Konoha and into one of the many parks. I'd rather not go ham. Where the hell is that music coming from? What hand? Someone tell me what's going on. Ino shouted. Where is Naruto? Naruto, come save me. Well, this isn't going as planned. Koji came to a stop in the middle of the woods. It was a gazebo of sorts, freshly painted white. Flowers' beds were sleeping for the winter and she knew exactly what this place was. It was the first place that the Yamanaka flower shop helped restore after the war. Just her mother, and Naruto. But we're here to stand witness. For an underhanded proposal. Shikamaru sighed and held out his hand towards the gazebo, as Naruto appeared. He was still wearing the ugly red Christmas sweater she forced on him. His face was red and his smile was nervous. A small black box rested in his hand and the world around her went deaf as she could only hear her heartbeat. So this was what was going on. This horribly cheesy proposal. Wait, what was she going to say? Yesta. But how was she going to say yes? Was she going to play it cool and tell him to slide the ring onto her finger, or was she going to scream like a little girl and jump saying yes 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 1,000 times yes? The world turned silent as Naruto goes down on one knee. She could hear his breath, hear him every muscle twitch. Ino, it's time for me to show you how our love has flowered, might I have your hand in marriage? She tried to say something. But all that came out was a few gasps. And tears. She was so happy she was crying. All around her, friends and family began to step out from behind the trees. Words failed her and all she could do was hold her hand out and nod while making happy sounds. The ring was a perfect fit. And the crowd around them cheered. Naruto went to take his well-earned kiss from her and she felt herself melting into him. If you ever do something that embarrassing to me again, I'll end you. She whispered into his ear. I love you too, he laughed. And Merry Christmas, Ino. Chapter 16, Primrose. So when's the wedding? Sakura asked, that stupid knowing smile on her face, diamond ring shining as she tapped her fingers along the clipboard marking her as a married woman. It wasn't the first time Sakura had asked her that question. It wasn't even the first time today Sakura had asked that question. As though Sakura loved to lord over the fact that she was married, despite the fact that Ino had been engaged for longer than Sakura had even been in a relationship. When I decided to plan it, again, Ino growled. The first wedding was going to be a grand ordeal with every single nation under the sun being present in some fashion. It was the ultimate wedding. But they had to cancel that one because of why was that one cancelled again? Oh right, giant meteor coming towards Earth and her husband being stuck on the moon. The next 3 were cancelled due to a plague, an invasion, and a really weird day where everybody but her was a different gender for a day. She might have dreamed that one up. Still, her husband was a sexy girl. The 3 after that had just kind of fallen apart as she was planning them. So much time and energy had gone into the first ones that the rest just felt blah. Don't get me wrong, It's not like I don't want to marry Naruto, I just kind of don't feel like I need to right this minute. Besides, they lived together, they both wore a ring, they were practically married. I don't need a piece of paper telling me that I want to spend the rest of my life with him. Well. Sakura smiled sheepishly, she held the clipboard up and turned it around for Ino to see. Her finger lightly tapping where it said some kind of a test was positive. You might want to get on that considering you're pregnant. Ino blinked. She heard Sakura loud and clear. She heard her very very clearly. She was pregnant. But when? They had always used protection, going so far as to double up on condoms and pills. How? She didn't want to be a whale. Sakura shrugged and sat the clipboard to the side, revealing her own growing belly. Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your sex life? 11. Okay, she might be exaggerating, they weren't teenagers anymore, they only went through 1 box of condoms a month, now down from 2 when they were teenagers. Point being, you two fuck more than anybody I know, actually you two have more sex than everybody else I know put together. It was bound to happen eventually. Sakura tapped her fingers on the countertop while her free hand drifted towards her belly. So you might want to get on that whole marriage thing. Ino stood. Her long hair following her like a river. I need to get a paper saying I want to spend the rest of my life with Naruto on it. So what's the plan? Sakura asked with a smile on her face. I hear that fall is a lovely time for a wedding. It wasn't. It really wasn't. No planning, I'm getting married today. Ino quickly put her shoes on and ran out the door. Her heart was pounding in her ears and her palms were sweaty. How on earth was she going to tell Naruto? How was she going to tell everybody else? Wait, tell Naruto first. What if people found out that the Hokage was having a baby out of wedlock? Sure, the entire world knew that she had been with Naruto forever, and even a few places though they were married. Namely Suna. Gaara had said he got tired of the invites and said that in Suna they're married. Ino? What are doing? Sakura asked, walking after her, still not quite at the waddling stage yet. I'm going to go marry my husband, there has to be someone around that can say officiate a quickie. This had gone on long enough, she needed to marry Naruto 2 years ago. You know he's in a meeting with the other cages, right? Sakura grunted to keep up with her. Those extra 2 inches of legs Ino had on her made it difficult to keep up, especially when she was in full bat out of hell strut mode. Good, one of them can do it. Shouldn't we at least get you a dress? I'm wearing a white bra and panties. It was Friday, and Naruto was in town, of course, she was going to match. That doesn't count. My bikini is also white, think we should do a bikini wedding? You know, before I turn into a whale. Ino. You know what, fine. You're just lucky you're hot enough to say shit like that, and it actually seems like a good idea. I'm so glad we've come to an understanding. XXXX. As great as it was to see his friend again, these Kage meetings were, in a word, boring. Oftentimes they'd talk about Chunin exams or go over threats, those were fun, but currently, the subject was improving infrastructure between the villages. Gaara was proposing a train to go directly from Suna to Konoha, which was neat, just not the cost-benefit analysis report. Seriously, did he need to be here for this? He'd rather be tending his flowers or eating ramen, or training, or just being someone in the general vicinity as his fiancé. They really should get married soon. Should he propose again? Was that weird? Proposing to the person you're already engaged to? So as you can see, within 2 years after its construction, the train will have paid for itself through increased trade as well as passenger fees. I also believe that this could be applied to other nation villages as well. Furthermore, Gaara's already dull voice made it nearly impossible to not fall asleep. And had it not been for the door being literally kicked in, Naruto would have been out cold, dreaming of a giant pool of ramen and a very naked Ino. The entire room jumped, weapons were drawn, and their bodyguards were on high alert ready to stab the intrude, which happened to be his wife. Somehow Ino had managed to get hotter over the years. Aging like fine wine, and still getting better looking by the day. Her long platinum blonde hair fell from her head like a waterfall, nearly reaching the back of her thigh in its length. It was always so silky smooth. To say nothing of hauntingly blue eyes that were glaring right at him. Ino. Naruto asked, blinking at the woman he was hopefully going to marry someday. What bring you here? All the weapons were put away. Yes, Kojiro said, pushing up his glasses. It was the boy first meeting as Mizukage. We're in the middle of a meeting. Ino marched over to Naruto, her heels clicking on the wooden floor with a stubborn determination. In one motion she picked Naruto up off of his chair, kissed him, and flung him in front of Gaara. I'm pregnant, we're getting married now. Wait, what? You're pregnant? Naruto tried to ask. Yep, it's yours, Gaara, can you officiate us? I pronounced you man and wife years ago, Gaara said, his voice and humor as dry as the desert. You may now kiss the bride. Wait, was that it? Naruto asked, still confused by what was happening. Are we married now? Yes. Ino grabbed his face and pulled it towards her. Now shut up and kiss me. Naruto did not need to be told twice. XXXX. To say Naruto was a nervous bundle of nervous nerves would accurate. Ino was in the delivery room, and both her and Sakura had kicked him out of it, leaving him to do nothing but pacing in front of the door while he listening to his wife scream in pure agony as she squeezed new life out of her. Fortunately, she didn't have a giant fox sealed in her stomach to worry about. But that didn't stop her screaming bloody murder. He always knew his wife was loud and vocal, he just didn't know that she could get that loud. Well, he did, but not in public. She sounded like she was dying. Then the screams came to a halt. And the entire world grew silent, as the soft cry of a babe echoed throughout the door. The sound of his child. His own family. Moments later Sakura opened the door, her gloved hands were covered in blood and other bodily fluids. Welcome to fatherhood, Naruto, Ino said. You can see your daughter if you promise not to be an idiot about it. A daughter? Naruto gasped. He had a daughter, a beautiful baby girl. Wait, Sakura had a son. He was going to have to protect his daughter from all boys. She wasn't allowed to date until she was married. Yep, that was a good rule. Yep, come on in. Naruto walked into the room and gasped. Ino was laying on the bed looking tired, her long hair forming a golden river along her shoulder as she held a small fussing bundle close to her chest. He zoomed over to her and slid on the ground, going down on one knee beside the bed. She had never looked so beautiful. She looked at him and smiled, before shifting the bundle for him to see. A beautiful blonde-haired baby girl with large blue eyes was already trying to let the world know that she was born. His daughter, his beautiful baby girl. Are you ready to be a dad, Naruto? Ino asked. Her words were as soft and motherly as could be. Her eyes fell towards their daughter, their ball of sunshine. Naruto nodded and held out a finger towards his daughter. She grabbed it, eyes locking onto him intently. Yeah, I think I am. So Sakura interrupted, tapping a pen on the clipboard. Do you have a name? Primrose, Ino smiled. It means eternal love. And that's exactly what she is. That's it for part 2. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.